Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. 'Tis I, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez, and right behind me is Brandon Grimm. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, Cap, how are you?
Hello, DJ. I almost said, as always, Brandon Grimm, because he's been with us a lot lately on the Captain Logan Show, but he's not always here.
Not
Actually,
always.
You weren't here on Tuesday when we did the Schumacher show, but I think you were here for last Thursday.
I was.
But yeah, anyway, anybody keeping track of that? I don't know. How you doing, DJ? What's happening? Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, sir. I'm pretending to dance to the music that you're playing, even though I don't know what it is and I can't hear it.
We were doing some bluegrass Metallica, so that kind of little dance sort of worked. No, but a bluegrass, so it was a handmade. So what you were doing is actually perfectly appropriate.
Yeah, as planned.
Because it was bluegrass. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, if you hadn't said anything, I might have believed that you were somehow actually listening to the lead-in music, even though I don't have it set up real well right now for you to do that. Well, folks, tonight our lead-in topic is going to be the rumor of a Ninja Turtles live-action series on CBS All Access, which is maybe happening. It's hard to say. The sources are not the most reliable of sources. Comicbook.com is talking about this. I also see it on the cinemaspot.com. So a few places are reporting this, but a lot of them are reporting it as rumor, and the ones that aren't kind of tells you maybe the journalistic integrity of some of those websites, because it is pretty clearly a rumor at this point. But I want to talk about a little bit about what that might look like if it happens, and whether I think it's a good idea. Throughout the show, we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. It doesn't have to just be Ninja Turtles related or related to potential shows, rumors of potential shows, or CBS All Access. Dear God, let's not do an entire hour on
Unfortunately,
CBS.
we could do an entire
All
hour,
Access. Yes, we absolutely could. And we've been doing a lot of streaming service shows lately. We could have done a whole, I just thought of this, we could do a whole series and just each show talk about a different streaming service, but I don't want to talk about CBS All Access for an entire hour.
It's weird that you said that, because I just thought, like, earlier this week I was inspired to make this logo that's like made up of all the different streaming. I'll have to show it to you. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I've been kicking around this streaming logo idea for a show if we ever do one.
So let's just go ahead and jump into stuff. We're going to talk about that a little bit, and then go ahead and start leaving your questions for DJ. Welcome, everybody. I see a lot of folks in the comments already. There's Solar Dragon 007 and Hawk Flame. Blue Dragon 5, as always. Blue Dragon 5 really is almost always here. I can say as always for Blue Dragon 5. And then we got Gypsy Warrior.
Hey, and leave your opinions on the TMNT show, guys.
Yes,
I'll shout them out.
Please do. John Ty's here. Okay, so also, let me just mention, as always, my spiel on this. If you want to make sure that your question or comment or topic gets talked about on air, you can leave us a super chat, and that helps us to run things here on the channel. We are mostly funded by our audience, so that helps out a lot. But of course, we'll get to as many pre-written questions as humanly possible as well. So, what I read from comicbook.com and CinemaSpot is that there is allegedly a live-action Ninja Turtle series in the works on CBS All Access, and that it would be based on, get this, and like a lot of people are really excited about this, the Last Ronin series, comic series, 5-issue series that's coming out this summer that hasn't even come out yet. So this is a little unprecedented if this is actually happening. I can't remember a lot of, or if any, shows that have been announced based on a thing that I haven't been able to read yet. Now, by the time the show would actually come out, The Last Ronin would have already been out for, of course, a while. If you're not familiar with the announcement for that and the pitch for that, The Last Ronin is a concept, I think, originally I don't know if there was a full script before, but it was conceptually created by Eastman and Laird together, and it was heralded by IDW as their big return, which was a little bit misleading. I was complaining about this when it first happened, because they had a ad in the back of I think Ninja Turtles 100. Maybe it was before that, but I think that's where we first found out about it. So this was like 9 or 10 months ago now, because I think that series is up to 109, 110 now. now, although with the quarantine, those numbers are skewed, so maybe it was even a couple months earlier than that. I don't remember. But anyway, so sometime last year, they made a big deal out of the triumphant return of Eastman and Laird, and a lot of people have been speculating, including myself, that they might finally come back together and do a joint project again, and we might actually get to see them draw together again, which would, of course, be a big, huge deal. And one of the things that led me to think that, besides the fact that they had just been more amiable lately, and there was, a convention a while back that they both, I think, appeared at together, but they haven't worked together in a bazillion years, of course. Is that there was a show, an episode, I think last year, of The Toys That Made Us that revealed them together. I think I can't remember if it was at that show or where it was, but there was this big surprise ending where you get to see them on screen together, and that led a lot of folks to think that maybe someday we'll get to see them work together again. Then you get this print ad for The Last Ronin, and their names are together on it. And I had never heard of this Last Ronin thing. I don't know if anybody else ever had either, and it turns out that it was just a thing that both of them have credit for that then, in coming up with in the first place, that then Tom Waltz is writing. So that's a little bit of a letdown. Hopefully it's great, especially if it's the thing that this TV series is going to be based on. If everybody hates it, that's going to be a big mistake. So I guess I appreciate, kind of, unless it's just a stupid risk that's being taken. I talk about risk taking all the time, but just because you take a risk doesn't always mean it was the right one or that it was a good idea. But I guess if it ends up being a really good book and they just really trust it, I guess I appreciate that even before anybody has had a chance to see it, they believe in it so much they're like, no, that's the ticket, that's the thing that we should make a series out of, because of course there's a whole lot of stories that they could go to and a whole lot of safer things that a lot of people know, like a couple of different stories in the original Mirage books by Eastman and Laird. You could have basically just done that first movie or some of the initial comics that movie are based on in a miniseries and just kind of reboot that and do that again. But instead they're doing this futuristic thing. So Last Ronin is supposed to be set sometime in the future. And I don't know if it would look like Ninja Turtles Beyond. I don't know how far-flung of a future it is.
Hopefully not like fast forward.
Well, yes, hopefully not. But it's supposed to be, obviously with that title, The Last Ronin, it's going to be a darker thing than that. And I would imagine it goes back to the kind of Miller sensibilities. You don't put the word Ronin in a Ninja Turtles thing and you're not looking at Ronin, right? Like, that's a big Miller work, which was one of the many things that influenced Ninja Turtles in the first place. But the pitch goes like this. This is just the like log line from IDW. In a future New York City far different from the one we know today, a lone surviving turtle goes on a seemingly hopeless mission to obtain justice for his fallen family and friends. Curious that we don't know which one. I want to assume Leonardo, but I guess it could be any of them. Leonardo or Raphael. I'm going to assume it's one of them, probably. And kind of interesting, too, that TMNT, the movie from '07, also kind of starts this way, where the Turtles are all splintered, and Leonardo has to try to bring all of them back together again at the beginning of that movie. So we would sort of have that again. So I'm obviously mixed on this whole thing if it actually ends up happening. I don't always talk rumors on this show, but we did the big news this week already, and this sounded interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because this is kind of a follow-up to some other live shows and videos that I've done, particularly with Dan Torrey, about the possibility of Ninja Turtles on TV and a live-action Ninja Turtle show, and what I would want to see, and what me and Dan would want to see from a thing like that. And DJ, maybe even you and I have talked about that some too. I don't remember, but it seems like it comes up a lot. There's we also know that there's supposed to be another movie happening at some point also, yet another reboot, and I don't think anything is known about that yet. So anyway, I guess if this were to happen, the thing I most like about it is the notion of a miniseries. And then I would imagine if it does really well, they would consider, doing a follow-up. But doing this, either continuing with that or doing an anthology thing. I guess we say this with a lot of things. I think Ninja Turtles Anthology could be really cool. jumping around in different time periods doing turtle stories. But I don't mind if this is really good, and depending on how far in the future it is, the notion of, it continuing past that. But DJ, the idea of doing like a Watchmen thing with Ninja Turtles, I think could be really cool.
I mean, it just depends how much they care about it, how much money they're willing to put into it. I don't know. It's such a weird. If this is a rumor, this is the weirdest rumor.
It's so specific. I mean, that's part of the reason I wanted to talk about it.
Access based on a thing that's not out yet.
That's not out yet? Yeah.
Such a weird rumor.
And then, of course, the thing that I would resist the most is that it's CBS All Access. Mm-hmm. However, and everybody knows my feelings on CBS All Access. A lot of us, I think, all feel the same way about it. It's kind of not worth the money, and more to the point, they haven't had any good new stuff yet. Twilight Zone looked promising and then turned out to be pretty bad past those first couple episodes. And I haven't watched much more since that, partly because everyone says it's terrible. But I haven't liked the Star Trek they've put on that service, of course. And so it's hard to trust the big wigs to get the right talent on stuff, and that their hearts would be in the right place in making a thing, because so far that has not seemed to be the case, and a lot of things have been really politically and ideologically driven, and I certainly don't want that for Ninja Turtles. Like, just make a cool Ninja Turtles thing. But there, I guess, is hope for CBS All Access, maybe, in that it's supposed to be rebranded soon. I think sometime in the next year, it's supposed to be turned into a broader streaming service, certainly that wouldn't be able to, compete with Disney Plus real hard or anything. I don't think it would be on the same, it could possibly be on the same level just because of what the parent company owns of HBO Max or Disney Plus, but Paramount would basically have, because Paramount and CBS, excuse me, are remerging again, for those of you that don't know that, and that now makes it plausible for them to have a streaming service that puts together more of their content, and it wouldn't just be CBS anymore. So Paramount could now put other things on that streaming service, which is why they would rebrand, including Nickelodeon, which is the reason that the Ninja Turtles thing would go to All Access. So if this isn't a rumor, it's a very believable one. If it is a rumor, it's a very believable one, because it certainly tracks that a Ninja Turtle show could go there, because Paramount obviously owns Nickelodeon, and Paramount is the company that put out the last live-action Ninja Turtles movies. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about that. DJ, do you have anything to add before we go to the comments?
No, I'll just jump into the comments. Some people are talking about it. Some people say it's been confirmed fake. What their sources are. They might be. Solar Dragon says he wished they'd make a gritty TV-14 super stylized animated show. I'm with him there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would.
Hayden Spring says Raphael's solo series. And then Solar Dragon 5 said, I guess live action show could be cool, but I prefer the turtles to look smaller and skinnier than what would be possible with rubber suits. So yeah, he really wants something stylized, which I kind of agree with. If you are going to do it live action, I guess what you would do would be what the Tick already did, right? Because that's what you would do with Turtles, just like the original Turtles. You would do a pastiche of Daredevil, and Daredevil's just had a huge Netflix show, so you would kind of do like the parody version, not full parody, but the same way the original Turtles were of Miller stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost too late to do it at this point, though. Daredevil's how many years old?
And isn't on anymore, and
7 years
sadly,
old,
it wouldn't feel relevant like it did when the Tick came out. And I hate that I'm saying that, because I think that first season's a masterpiece, like an unadulterated masterpiece. But it's hard to say. And I don't mean to go off on a side tangent here, but I just had this thought the other day about Daredevil, DJ. It's hard to say how much that's going to stick in the cultural zeitgeist, just because of how much stuff is vying for people's attention now. We talk all the time about how we don't have as many cultural touchstones as we used to, because everybody's not watching all of the same stuff. And so you can have a brilliant thing like that, and in my opinion, the Tick will also be like this, that's going to get buried and everybody's going to forget about. Maybe Daredevil a little bit less, but down the road, who actually goes back to that never saw it before? Especially because you're not going to have physical media anymore, or at least as much of it. And so, if at some point that's just not on Netflix anymore, I don't know how anybody even watches it. I think things could ironically get lost because of the internet. Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's so buried on Netflix anyway because they pump out new things every week. But and Daredevil's a huge thing for like our crowds. But like every time I hear normal people talk about Daredevil, they just talk about it like it's just another show, like a regular show. It didn't have like the huge impact that it did with comic book people because they're like, holy crap, this is great.
Yeah, Blue Dragon 5 says he thinks it's got staying power. It ought to, but I don't think it will. I mean, I don't trust it. I wish I could be sure about that, but
yeah, and it was a little tainted by all the other shows in the same continuity, I think.
Mark my words,
I haven't even watched the third season because of that.
You're going to see articles in 10, 15 years that are going to be like, does anybody remember that Daredevil show? Or like Hidden Gems, Daredevil,
on Netflix,
which was like freaking huge at the time. And then people are going to call it like a Hidden Gems. Well, this may be an unprecedented thing on our show, DJ, that a news story that I wanted to talk about is probably debunked like during the show. like somebody. I'm glad some folks came up and mentioned it while we're broadcasting right now. But I don't think it was a waste and not worth talking about because. We could use that to springboard into a larger discussion about whether or not such a thing should even exist. I've always said that Ninja Turtles ought to be a blend of animation and live action. If it's got to be live action, that you should do it the Sin City way, and that the Turtles themselves could be largely in shadow and could be computer generated, but so subtly and again mostly shadow work that you wouldn't even notice it, or could be really super stylistic so that they're kind of 3D, but and like you want them to kind of be able to inhabit the same world as the human beings. But if it's a really heightened stylistic world that's shot mostly on green screen, you could almost get away with they and the humans not even quite looking like they belong in the same universe.
2.5.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to computer generated turtles at all. I'm opposed to 15-foot turtles that crack the concrete when they walk.
Yeah, of course. But did you notice how that wasn't successful? And there's no reason to even talk about that anymore. They're not going to do that again. That's the only thing anybody thinks to complain about. And there's like 19,000 other things to complain about. Now, I'm not going to say that's
specific number.
I'm not going to say that's the least of them, because it's not. It's a problem.
Yeah,
how are they ninjas?
They're walking turtles. It doesn't have to be super realistic. Like, it can be stylized and cool. Like, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about like the ridiculousness of that, of them learning ninjutsu from a book.
All of it. And not just learning it from a book, but Splinter has like all of his Asian wisdom from the book too.
Yeah,
like,
he's acting like he's like some reincarnated.
How did you get that accent from a book? Make any friggin' sense? Oh no, we can do that. We can do this the whole show.
We should do a commentary. Have you done a commentary on that movie yet?
I think so.
If you haven't, we should.
I think so. I know I did one on the sequel on Turtle Torture Time with Dan. So I must have done that first one too. But I'm not opposed to doing it again so that you can complain about it.
I hated it. I haven't seen it since the theater. I despised it.
So watch it again.
I'm an equal opportunity commentary maker. Anyway, well, let's go back to the comments. What else do you see, man? About this or anything else?
All right, we'll just jump into some random questions. Mutale, very important question. Which would you guys rather live without, arms or legs?
Legs.
That's a Tick episode. There's an animated Tick episode called Armless But Not Harmless. It's the weirdest premise where the Tick and Arthur, there's a villain named Venus. This is actually connected. I can connect this to Ninja Turtles because I really can, because in Nextmutation, in that abysmal Saban live action Ninja Turtle show, there's a female turtle named Venus, and she's named that because of the Venus de Milo sculpture. And the villain in the Tick episode that I'm talking about is also called Venus, and she has a partner called Milo. And Milo carries around this gun that just looks like a big magnet that can take away people's arms. And he shoots the Tick and Arthur, and their arms fall off. And then the villains use the Tick and Arthur's arms to put on robots so that they can frame the Tick and Arthur with robots that look nothing like them at all, that look horrible, but they have the right arms. And it has my one of my favorite Tick lines of all time, where the Tick and Arthur have to pretend to be supervillains because they've been framed, so the villains think that they're actually bad now. And they go to the Evil Eye Cafe, and in order to prove that they are villains, the Forehead picks up this really cute kitten and says, "If you're so bad, then eat this kitten." And the Tick says, "Eating kittens is just plain wrong, and no one should do it, ever." Anyway, the answer is clearly legs.
Yes, definitely legs.
What do you think, DJ? Arms or legs?
That's hard for me, actually, because if I couldn't, like, move... Like, I'm so into movement, if I couldn't, run around and do stuff, that would, like, kill me. I would just be, like, immobilized.
What about
and I can still do that stuff without arms, but there's a lot of other stuff I couldn't do without arms. But I think fake arms work better than fake legs. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it can give me some of those, like, knife legs. Have you seen those, like, prosthetic spring-looking legs? I could get me some of those and jump around.
Yeah, so, I actually think that's a real difficult catch-22, especially if you're athletic at all, or into martial arts like you are, or into any kind of sports or anything, like doing what I do. Like, as far as you guys know, I don't have legs, so like I don't even need them to do what I do. I'm good. Yeah, it'd be hard to get up the stairs. I'd have to put a bathroom in down here, stat.
An elevator, at least.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be terrible. Though. You know, like if every time you needed to go to the restroom, you had to get in an elevator in your wheelchair.
Oh, yeah, that'd be terrible, but you'd have to get up and down from the basement anyway, so you need one of those...
Nah, I wouldn't.
You can
it's
have
a really cool basement.
Lift on your stair.
I'd be good. I would just stay here forever. That'd be it.
Well, that's also a possibility.
Oh, Mutali mentions that there's rumors of a Suicide Squad game. I had heard that, too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Blue Dragon 5 asked about that earlier. So.
At this point, I don't trust anything about video games having to do with the Arkham franchise or made by anybody related to Arkham until we get a confirmation from... the actual studios, be it Rocksteady, excuse me.
You can't even trust the logos these days.
I can also connect this to Ninja Turtles because I just said Rocksteady. But anyway, but you know, be the studio Rocksteady or be it Warner Brothers Montreal. But yeah, so a couple weeks ago we did a show about recent video game news, or at least allegedly that's what the show was supposed to be about. As you guys have probably noticed, I've started leading in now with any major topic that I wanted to make sure that we talked about, because usually when I put something in the title, it ends up coming up in the comments, somebody reminds me to talk about it. But that week, one of the two things actually did not end up coming up in the comments. And so I talked about a little bit about the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, which was not a rumor, thank goodness, and actually was happening. But in that title and the thumbnail, we brought up a supposed Batman game that was not featured with the video games that were all talked about that week during what was it? There wasn't a convention, but was it just like one game studio that was like, I forget what exactly it was. There was some kind of presentation. Anyway, people expected that to come up that week, and it didn't. And so now I guess, unless somebody can confirm that something's been confirmed that I didn't know about, that there may or may not still be a Batman game happening. There was talk that maybe it was a Batman Beyond thing. It was still supposed to be, I think, a Warner Brothers Montreal thing, but nobody knows for sure, and it still has never been confirmed that that's even happening. So once I heard the Suicide Squad thing, I was like, you know what? I don't even care about these Batman game rumors anymore. And like there had been a Superman game rumor for a long time. Like it is clearly very easy to just get on the internet and go, they're making this, and a bunch of people will believe it.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a verified source at all these days.
Oh, that's what it was. It was a Sony stream. Okay. So I guess people expect
we should start doing that. That should be, I could make some convincing looking some thumbnails, and you could write the news articles.
Sure.
We can just start making rumors.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll just make them all like pipe dream stuff for us. You know, we'll just act all in denial, and like the world is finally catering to our whims. So the first one that I'll put out is that Picard Season 2 got canceled. And and that they're finally going back to they're excising everything from the canon that I don't like, and like all the post Enterprise stuff, the Abrams stuff and beyond, that's all done now, and then what else, DJ? What else could we throw out there? That they're not doing that stupid time travel Power Rangers movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is no longer happening, and instead it's going to be a 3-part epic origin film about Zordon, because that's all I want.
Yes, and then they're going to cross over with the Krypton movie that they're also making.
Right,
the
that has nothing to do with that
trilogy.
crappy TV show. Yeah.
And then Amazing Spider-Man 3 is coming out. And they're scrapping all the MCU stuff. Oh, yeah. We could do that all day.
We absolutely could. Yeah, but from a lot of it for me would just be cancellations. Like the CW shows are all done. They're all finished. But they're gonna finally end all the CW superhero shows.
We'll call it the Grapevine.
By retconning the horrible things they did to Smallville. But they're also going to retcon the last episode of Smallville.
Oh, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
all right,
we could do this all day. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna jump into that. That's
Mutali says Hellboy 3 happens. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yes, Hellboy 3 is coming.
Yeah. No, don't say. People are gonna take that out of context, like posted places. You heard it here first, folks. DJ Martinez has the inside scoop. Hellboy 3 is happening.
I guess I just have to take that one shot from the second movie where his horns grow out and it shows like the future, and just use that as the the image.
Or like they actually had 3 more of those really great animated 60s Batman movies in the works, and Adam West had already recorded all of his voiceovers for them, and they just now have finally gotten around to animating them. Yeah, just pipe dreams out. Just stuff I wish was happening.
All right, John Ty got the first super chat in under the wire today. He says, how do websites like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. stop online harassment?
Well, they try a lot, right?
Well, and Solar Dragon had a hilarious answer to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm going to steal it. He said, a block button.
Yeah, sure.
Do they not all have that?
Individual isolated cases, obviously, that can be done. The difficulty is doing it consistently, right? And you hear complaints about this all the time, where a lot of these big companies in social media will block some people but not other people, and very often it's very damning, and it looks like they're playing favorites because of people they don't want to anger, or because of companies that they might have a stake in, and sometimes it might not have anything to do with that, but it's hard not to jump to that conclusion. So
yeah, but I mean, they just might not be able to block everybody. I don't know.
It's impossible to be consistent about that.
Yeah.
I can speak just from my own little corner of YouTube that there have been people in the past that have wanted me to block people that were problematic in the comments, and I very, very rarely ever done that. And the reason is because it's very difficult not to look like, again, you're playing favorites, or like you're just getting rid of people that you don't agree with. And it's impossible to be consistent. If I do it with one person, now suddenly there's like a precedent and there's a rule set. And I mean, I realize that, and this is related because this is true of the larger issue with big companies too. Like, companies can do whatever you want. You'll hear people kind of bandy that argument around all the time, where it's like, well, it's legal, so it's fine. And I don't fully share that attitude. I feel like you'd want to kind of be consistent. You'd want to be fair. I think it would be bad for your bottom line and your business if you weren't as fair as you could be. You're going to lose people over that, right? And so it's tricky. So anyway, to answer the question, I think the initial idea there is maybe a little bit even flawed. Like, I don't think the issue is how do people stop it from happening. I think it's, well, they're trying, but can they be consistent about it? Like, I don't think there's any social media website that's completely ignoring everything. I think like you said, DJ, I think everything has built-in block systems and stuff. at this point. I think it's just a matter of, can you be fair about it? And, as I always say, it's impossible to be completely fair much of the time with much of anything. But I feel like some of these places could do maybe a little bit of a better job. So, I mean, like, you're going to always accidentally make mistakes and not be consistent and look hypocritical. It's impossible for that not to happen to some degree, but you can tell what outfits are trying and which ones aren't.
There's also a big discrepancy in a place like Facebook versus a place like, and I'll put like something like LinkedIn in social media category. It's just a very specific type of, social media where you're connecting with other like business-minded people. On a place like that, they're already controlling what kind of information goes up into the sphere.
Yeah, that's true.
And a place like Facebook is more of a public forum. You can't censor someone's speech like that. It becomes very problematic. You've got the amendments, your rights as a citizen, and to be able to say what you want without fear of political persecution type like, and no retaliation, and that doesn't mean freedom from consequence, of course.
Yeah.
Freedom from like the government saying like,
and that's why I say if
it's
just because it's legal doesn't make it right.
Right.
Yeah.
But then like you've also got even across the board in Facebook, you have the bots that Facebook employs to try to find certain keywords and things like that. You have people who work for Facebook who peruse through things that have been reported, and then you have people in the groups and pages who are moderating who are just regular Facebook users. They may even be the creator of the page. So you've got all these different moral standards going on. So it is literally impossible. I got a ban on Facebook recently, a 3-day ban for something I posted in a group that was designed for this type of like for this type of meme, and it got flagged, and I got a
just as inappropriate.
Yeah, just as it claimed. Well, it claimed it was violating some of Facebook's policies for decency content, and it actually wasn't. It was one of the cases of mistaken identity, but because of the pandemic and everything, Facebook actually has a thing that tells you that there's limited review resources. You can send this in, but it might not get seen, and so
YouTube has that too.
So it still stands. Like Facebook's automatic decision stands
because they don't have enough manpower to go in and
right. And so it kind of that removes, that sucks for the common user in a lot of ways. To the greater business model, it doesn't matter much. But like I said, you've got all these different moral standards.
Well, I was also going to say, like you put 10 people in a room, and they're not all going to necessarily agree with what should be considered defamation and what shouldn't. That gets really sticky too. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on, DJ.
Yeah. So Pandora gives us a super chat. I think The Boys will be remembered very well. Like Watchmen, it deconstructs the superhero genre, but it has a lot more fun with it.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten to that yet, and I've said this a million times. I haven't wanted to watch that show. I still may at some point. I hear a lot of good things about it. I get that there's it's got a fan base, and a lot of people I talk to are really positive on it. But that's not my thing in the first place, and it's a comic that Vince absolutely detested and sounded really bad. I never wanted to bother with it, and so I'm sure that show is better, and maybe at some point I will. But yeah, there are a few people that just keep kind of pressuring me to watch this show, and maybe at some point I'll get around to it. But
yeah, I have no interest in it either. But I watched the first 15 minutes and shut it off, but my wife just started watching it this week. I think she's about 3 or 4 episodes.
But that sounds more like her thing than yours, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. But I like to say that what he says about it deconstructs the superhero genre, but it has more fun with it. Is kind of why I don't want to see it, because I don't want superheroes to be like, I don't like the idea that if superheroes were real, they would be horrible, awful people, and then also make it fun. It's kind of like that Kick-Ass problem that you have, where it's like, if you're trying to show how awful and horrible this would be, then don't make them fun and characters that you like too. I don't know. It's a weird hang up for me, I guess.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen it. So.
That kind of thing. Yeah, and that's why I hesitate to speak on it, but I can certainly speak to Kick-Ass, and if it's doing the same thing Kick-Ass did, I like that movie a lot, but it's kind of tonally at odds with itself a little bit, because, like you said, it's about violence, and consequences of violence, but it's also reveling in it. And part of what you're supposed to be enjoying is seeing people get the crap kicked out of them. And so I don't know, there's like an almost unintentionally mean-spirited component to that, where I don't know that comes from a mean-spirited place in the first place, but it kind of reads that way. So yeah, I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah, I think we feel. I think
like
we're pretty close
if it's even
on that.
possible to do both, but yeah.
Then the next one was from John Ty. He says, "Would you rather be afraid of your government or your neighbors?"
Real quick, let me mention something Mutali says, because I figured somebody would say this. Mutali says, but DJ, you liked HBO Watchmen. What DJ is saying is that HBO Watchmen is not doing that.
No, it's not trying to be fun. It's like the darkest, most serious superhero thing I've seen in a long time. And I like that. That's what I'm saying. You got to pick one or the other. For me, anyway. I'm not saying that The Boys is bad. Obviously, I haven't even seen it. But I'm just saying from the feeling I got at the beginning of it is what that felt like to me. And
So you're saying if that's like a straight up, total farce or parody, and obviously that show probably isn't that, then it can kind of get away with it. But Kick-Ass tried to be also dramatic about it.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to. I don't like the idea of superheroes being horrible people anyway. Because I like superheroes. I want them to be like inspirational. And I like the Marvel thing where they're kind of they struggle with it. But The Boys seems to be saying that like they would be 100% be horrible, awful people, and it would be a bad thing if we had superheroes. And I don't want that idea coupled with, isn't it fun to watch this guy punch people in the face? And
yeah, if Watchmen is entertaining, it's entertaining in a different way. And
yeah,
on more of an intellectual kind of level.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever like. I mean, I probably laughed a couple times, but it was just like from like.
There's a little bit of levity in that show, certainly.
Said, but it's not like they're not reveling in like when Dr. Manhattan comes in and like just obliterates all the racists at the end. It's not like it's funny. I don't know. I don't think they were expecting us to laugh at that.
Yeah, and it doesn't watch
gruesome.
like, look how cool this is, or like it's a visual spectacle.
Yeah, and Solar Dragon says it's not fun in that sense, but it has a dark sense of humor. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're just talking about our sensibilities, not necessarily if it's done well or not.
We're also not we also don't mean to review a thing that we've not seen, certainly. But this is the impression that we have that turns us both off to looking at it.
Yeah, we can talk about why we're not interested.
And that's all we're doing, is we're talking about why we're currently not interested. And both of us are saying that we won't necessarily never watch it. It's not on my priority list right now.
Yeah, and my wife has actually said that I might like it more than I'm thinking I will. So if she gives it a glowing review, maybe I'll check it out.
AMC Comics says, real quick, I want to read this comment if I can. I personally like flawed superhero stories given their Elseworlds. A good example would be Ultimates, but you have to have variety. You have to have that in relation to something more traditional. If all we have is deconstruction of superhero things, I get a lot less interested in the genre.
Which is kind of what we've had for a while now, which is
exactly
also not too interested in it.
Yeah.
Because we haven't even had a non-deconstructed Superman movie in a long time.
Let me also say that if Watchmen hadn't already been a universe I was invested in, I probably wouldn't have cared about that show either.
Yeah, same.
If that had been an original property somehow, like, obviously, that doesn't make sense because you don't get to the place we are without Watchmen. But I'm just saying that, like, if somehow that was this like brand new property, it would be just like The Boys. I wouldn't have any interest in it.
Yeah. This is from. Oh, we never answered John Ty's. Would you rather be afraid of your government or your neighbors?
I wouldn't rather be afraid of anything. I don't guess I understand that question. Like, would you rather
would you rather? So you got to pick one or the other, I guess.
Yeah, I know, but just the way that's phrased, and I don't mean to deconstruct his question or to or argue with him too hard, but like, I just think it's weird the way that's framed. Like,
well, your government's everywhere. Your neighbors you can move. Your neighbors.
Yeah,
but maybe it's just a fear of all neighbors, and you have to like go live in a swamp.
But I think it's easier to answer the question: are you more afraid of the like if you thought your neighbors were scary or the government was really scary, which of them do you think you'd be more afraid of? But the idea of like, what would you pick to be afraid of is kind of weird. I don't even know how to answer
if
that.
I had to be afraid of one or the other, I would rather be afraid of my neighbors.
My neighbors,
because the government,
they have a lot more control over you.
They really do. And
I could
got a lot
move
more at their disposal.
It's a lot harder to move away from the government. Like you could, but it's a lot more expensive, And then you got to deal with citizenship or dual citizenship or just living someplace where you're not a citizen. It gets complicated.
The government already has 6 ways from Sunday that they can track you, and they prove it time and time again when they go on manhunts and search for missing persons. Now, granted, there's a lot of people that never get found, certainly, but they can find a lot of you.
A lot of people are already afraid of the government, so it might be easier to live that way. If you're afraid of your neighbors, you'd be like looking out your windows all the time and like, I don't know.
Yeah, if you had a choice between them, sure. Or at the very least, even if you're also afraid of the government, it would give you a distraction, a different fear that you could be worried about instead of the government. Okay, throw us another one, sir.
All right, first of all, I gotta say, Daniel Davis said this is the most John Ty question ever.
It totally was. Hey, before you get another question, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and usually I put it on the screen, but I forgot this time. We are doing an After Dark tonight after this show, so we're gonna record, we're gonna broadcast for another 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on super chats, but we'll round off as close to an hour as we can, and then we'll take a 10 to 15 minute break, and then we will jump right over to After Dark on Patreon. If you are not a patron, but you're interested in hanging out with us a little bit later tonight and talking about some other topics that wouldn't usually come up on the channel, although these days it feels a little bit more like anything goes. But we'll have a uncensored show where we can go a little bit farther with some of these topics. You can go to patreon.com/geekvolution, and at the just $2 tier, you can get access to that show. You can watch it live with us tonight, or you can take a look at it later on. Tonight, we're going to do just topics. I decided not to do any of our regular segments. I'm not going to do any karaoke or anything tonight. We're just going to answer questions and do topics. So I have a number of topics written down. It's going to be more like a traditional older After Dark. Brandon might have brought something. DJ might have brought something. And then I have a bunch of questions from Patreon. And then you guys can also ask things live. So we'll knock out as many topics as we can over the course of however long we decide to broadcast. That show is always at least an hour, but very often it goes longer. So
it is your Patreonic duty to sign up for Patreon.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. You don't have a duty whatsoever, of course, to sign up for Patreon. But that is one of the cool perks that we give you if you do that. Okay, DJ. Yes. Yeah, I know you did. I know you did that just for a pun, but don't say that. Don't say that. No one has a duty. Don't point at my audience. Nobody has a duty. Anyway, go ahead, DJ.
This is from a new name I don't recognize. Tyrone Kinnard. Welcome, Tyrone.
Hi there.
Hope you come back. Mirage Continuity TMNT needs a rated R movie or TV show.
Yeah, and
in continuity. That's interesting.
I don't agree with in continuity. I always get weird with that. Some people don't mind continuities that have a lot of different media in them. I guess I'm more open to it than I used to be, but I still, DJ, that still turns me off a little bit, man. I think
I don't like continuity, so yeah, I just thought it was interesting that he said it that way. Maybe he just means that universe needs
something like that universe, yeah. But if he's saying in continuity with Mirage, where all that stuff happened and you have to play catch up to get to that, but it's also in a different medium. I like the HBO Watchmen show, but I still feel weird about the fact that we made a TV show sequel to a comic book. So yeah,
and it's not even holding your hand. Like, people got to be so well. Like, I saw some people on Facebook really because of what's going on right now, suggesting watching that show. And I'm like, people are going to be so lost if they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you better get. Well, I almost said a subscription to DC Universe, but I don't think Watchmen is actually on there right now. But like, go to Comixology or something and pull that up on your on a tablet or buy the trade and read that first. Dear God, read that first, because you're going to have no idea what the heck you're looking at. But anyway, to actually answer the question, yeah, of course, lots of folks want that, and want something a lot closer to what the early Mirage comics were. There are also a lot of folks that say that have only read the first issue or only know, and I'm not saying that this person did this by any means, but a lot of people say, I want the Mirage comics given to us like totally pure, directly filmed from the comics that have only like read that first issue, or maybe one or two of the micro series that came out shortly thereafter, or have seen the 90 movie and have heard people say Mirage, so now they say Mirage, and they don't really know what they would be getting themselves into if you directly adapted those books. Because a lot of people don't realize this, DJ. We did Triceratons like third or fourth issue really, really quickly. Like we start doing interdimensional space stuff very, very quickly in Ninja Turtles. There's a lot of people that still will go, well, I like the Mirage comics because they stayed like gritty street level for so long. I'm like, you haven't read them. No, they didn't. Like they jump back and forth a lot, and but a lot of the stuff that we start to go to when it feels like we've run out of ideas, or like we got rid of the shredders, so we don't know what to do except to just fight Karai for 3 seasons. We'll go to space and we'll deal with Triceratons and stuff, and that's when it starts to lose people. They did that right away. Eastman and Laird did, and a lot of people don't realize that. But anyway. But the idea of getting something, tonally closer to that isn't necessarily for kids, where we can go even farther than the 90 movie did, and I don't even think it would necessarily have to be rated R to go as far as the comics did, but I also do think you could do that now and it could make money. It's good. It's going to be really easy for Paramount to assume that their last franchise, it kind of proves that this is a thing that is only for kids. But that's because they don't understand Ninja Turtles. I think Ninja Turtles and Batman are both things, and a lot of things. Like, at this point, I think you can do adult Power Rangers that it maybe not rated R, but that's not for, 10 or younger. I still want my kids to be able to watch a Power Rangers thing, but I think there is an audience for that at this point. And if you think about it, everybody that grew up with this stuff, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, a lot of us are still consuming it. A lot of us still collect it, still buy stuff, and there's more like adult versions of this stuff in comics that are more sophisticated and have more character dimension that are for us. Why can't movies and TV shows do it too? I think it's really easy for people to forget that I'm 36 years old almost, and I was the audience for Ninja Turtles. I was, when that, and in fact, I'm actually a little bit younger than the initial target audience, because that show starts in '87. I was 3. So if you think about it, the core audience for that show that was there when it started is 40 now.
Yeah.
The audience is there. You can make rated R Ninja Turtles, and if it's good, enough people will give it money.
Yeah, but don't
it's
they just
even
don't
more,
they
it's
want to
even
just
more than
appeal
that,
to the
Kev,
lowest
because
common
I was the target audience for the '03 show. So people you got people your age that are a little older that grew up with Ninja Turtles. Then you got people my age who grew up with a little bit more sophisticated, already more adult TMNT show. So both of those, not generations, because we're not in different generations, but both of those audiences would both eat up.
We are in different generations as far as internet time goes, DJ.
Yeah.
It's become like a dog years thing. But no, Brandon, to your point, that used to be the case, and it shouldn't be now. We have proven audiences for these things that will go see rated R movies if they're good, or will go see more niche things, and as I'm always saying, can be won over on stuff if it's great and there's a lot of word of mouth, even if it wasn't a thing that initially appealed to them, right? So like Deadpool should have proven this to these studios.
Yeah, but the studios rarely take the chance on it.
Yeah, but Fox did with Deadpool, and it worked with Logan. And all I'm saying is, you still have a lot of these bigwigs that are kind of out of touch and are still making the same decisions they would have made 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're more likely to do it with streaming, though. There's no reason we can't have a kids TMNT show on public television and a more adult one on streaming at the same time.
Anime says adults don't take TMNT seriously right now, though, is the thing. All you got to do is market it right.
Well, we've gone down,
and it's got to be good.
Down. Like since '03, we went down to the 2012 show, which was a little more kid friendly, and now the TMNT show is like, isn't it like Teen Titans Go, basically? I couldn't even get through the first episode.
It's not quite on that level. Like the whole thing is not like a straight up farce, but the comedic sensibilities are more like mid 2000s Cartoon Network, and it is aimed at a more little kid audience.
So I want to be more kid friendly.
I want to be clear about something too with Turtles. I can't tell you why this is. And maybe part of it's just because Turtles weirdly scratches some of the same itches that Batman does. Turtles has become exactly like Batman. There are like 100 different ways to do that property. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense. There shouldn't be. That feels like a very specific niche thing in the first place. Well, I guess the reason, though, is because... I guess I'm about to answer my own question to some degree. I guess maybe the reason is because there was already such a discrepancy between the tones of the Mirage comics and the 87 show, which were both relatively very successful in their mediums, right? And so after that, after you get a thing that in comics weirdly blows up, despite how underground it is, and is very dark and serious, but has this weird kind of tongue-in-cheek humor to it, where it's absurd, but it takes itself completely dead seriously. And then you have a cartoon show, which is the exact opposite of that. Now it makes sense that everything in between would happen after that.
I think because it's so out there and weird already, and the whole point of it was they were playing it straight. I think you can also be goofy with it too. I think. And
that's why I think that there's still room for kiddie Turtles. I just think that if you're going to have that, it would be nice to have, multiple things around at the same time. So that 2012 show absolutely deserved to exist. And I don't know if you've seen any of it, but it was strangely good. And
I liked it.
I mean, I enjoyed it. What I saw of it a lot. I need to go back and finish it at some point. But it's very watchable.
Turtles is always weird to find after the fact. Like they never give it a good DVD run.
No, they don't, and it's never streaming
any
anywhere.
Of their shows.
Maybe that'll change with the All Access thing. Who knows? I don't know how much of Nickelodeon that thing will have. That is not part of that whole rumor thing, by the way. That is supposed to be rebranded, and who knows how much of Nickelodeon will be there. But I wouldn't hold your breath for 03 or anything, because I don't know what the rights hangups are with that, if there are any. And I would have thought that Nickelodeon would have done a release of that by now, if not streaming on DVD, and that has not happened. But anyway, I guess the point I was making is Rise of the TMNT wasn't for me, and I saw the pilot too, and I don't understand that, and I don't know how successful that is. I suspect not very, given that the 2012 show had a massive line of action figures on the same scale, literally on the same scale, with the size of them, but like the same scope of amount of product that Playmates did.
A three-way pun, like in Turtles scales. I was like, that was crazy.
Yeah, I'm proud of that. But anyway, in '87, Playmates had this crazy. Like robust strategy for Ninja Turtles, where they just put out, and especially after it got really popular, after that initial 5-episode miniseries, and then it became an ongoing, they started putting out just insane amounts of product, and they went with the exact same model with 2012. Go into a Walmart or a Target right now, that is not happening with Rise of TMNT, and when that show initially started, it looked like they were going to try the exact same strategy, and it didn't take very long before they stopped putting out so much product. So I'm going to assume that show is not doing great, but I haven't looked into ratings or anything.
2012 show is all 5 seasons on Hulu. So
wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, cool.
We should watch that.
We should.
Next up, One and Only Productions. What comic book character do you think has the most potential to be great on screen that hasn't happened yet, TV or movie?
Well, this comes up all the time. This seems like a monthly question,
but it gets narrower and narrower.
Every month it gets a little bit more narrow. I guess maybe less so now with quarantine. But so the big
we can
ones
still say Black Widow.
Yeah, at the moment. The big ones that I really always want to throw out have been announced. A lot of them, like the go-to answer for me has always been Moon Knight, and we know that's happening now. The question is one that always comes up with people. That is not anywhere at the moment, so I guess that is still a thing. And then there's a lot of things that we have tried that have either been great and got canceled or weren't all that good in the first place that I'd love to see another go of. It's really unfortunate that Matt Ryan can't continue his Constantine show, and I know that he's still playing that character, but in like way less intelligent and well-written material. So that's unfortunate. It'd be nice if we could do that. I've heard great things about Swamp Thing. That was a thing I always thought would be interesting to try to bring back. And it happened and got canceled after one season. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's difficult to bring up things that haven't been tried.
Yeah, I would always want more of the street level Marvel stuff like Shang-Chi. I'd like an actual Iron Fist show. That'd be great, or movie or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to even think of things at this point. Someone said the question, I think.
I just mentioned the question.
Okay.
That was one of the first things I said. I said, DJ.
I was reading the chat and ignoring you.
Yeah, you're fine, man. I'm trying to think of other things. Jobs. No, I know. I understand that. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I think
Sandman, people are saying.
I think like an anthology or maybe a miniseries for Sam and Twitch would be great. That was announced at one point and then doesn't look like anything ever came of it. So like everything I can think of has either been pitched and it turned out to not end up happening, and so like I guess they still count, or happened and weren't great, or were great and got canceled very quickly.
Yeah. That's a hard
Anime said Space Ghost. I would love a serious Space Ghost. I think that is, I've brought this up before too. I think that is absolutely possible. I think it would be a really cool animated thing. Not to say that you couldn't do like an epic sci-fi live-action Space Ghost, which would be absolutely insane. But base it on the serious Alex Ross comic from the late '90s, which I need to sit down and review. I was thinking about that earlier today. By the way, quick plug for the Comic Vault. I put out a poll today, both on Facebook and YouTube. I guess not a poll, but kind of a call for stuff. If there's anything recent or old that I've never reviewed on the Vault that you're interested in, go to one of those places with one of those posts, either on Facebook or in the social media section on the YouTube channel, and comment there, and look at the comments already, because there's quite a few, so you might double up, but check and see if the thing that you want hasn't been mentioned yet, and I'm going to start going to those for more vaults down the road. And you of course can still put in a personal request to make sure that a thing gets reviewed. I'm not saying that I will review everything on those lists, so if you want to make absolutely certain that something gets reviewed, you can always do an official paid request on Patreon, but throw in something, throw your hat in the ring there, and there's a chance that I'll review it.
Cool. Random reviewer.
Yeah.
When are you guys going to do commentaries on more recent Marvel movies like Infinity War and Far From Home?
Real quick, OAW Entertainment, do you have a release date for the Kingdom Come Comic Vault? I'm going to try to put that up next week. I need to finally get that out. So, yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question? I just forgot.
Oh, when are we going to start doing, when are you guys going to do commentaries on more recent Marvel movies like Infinity War and Far From Home?
I don't know yet. A lot of my Marvel commentary guys have just been too busy to do stuff with me. So like I haven't seen Eric in a month. He's just been too busy to get together with me and do stuff. We keep making dates and one of us keeps having to cancel them. And then Dan Torrey's been too busy. He's studying for his law exam. Yeah, DJ and I might do something at some point. One of the more recent movies, but I was kind of waiting for some of those other guys also, just because like Dan and Eric I usually do the Marvel movies with, but DJ, we may at some point have to just start getting crack-a-lacking on those. I've been getting a lot of requests for those recently. People are starting to get a little bit impatient about Infinity War and Endgame and some of that stuff, so
yeah, we could do that. I mean, I know we kind of feel similarly about both of those Avengers movies, so I don't know how interesting hearing us talk about it would be.
Sure.
But...
Well, yes, but importantly, I don't bring on co-hosts because they have the opposite opinion of me. Sometimes people like really think I should do that, and I just don't operate that way. It has a lot more to do with the rapport I have with a person, and if they're an interesting and insightful personality, than it has to do with specifically what their opinion is. So I don't mean to argue with you, DJ, but I just don't want to set a precedent for people thinking that I'm operating that way. We're like, oh well, I'm not going to put DJ on the commentary because our opinions are too close. Or counter to that, I'm only putting DJ on the commentary because he falls in line perfectly with me, and if he didn't, I wouldn't have used him. Neither of those things are true in how I operate. You could feel polar opposite from me with one of those movies, and if you knew enough about it, and you being you, I would put you on that commentary. So I just think it's important to throw in that caveat and mention that for folks, because that is a comment I get a lot. It was like, well, how come you pick this guy who thinks exactly like you do about it? I'm like, that's not the criteria. That's not how I do this.
No, that's a great point. We don't need to represent every opinion on every film. That would be
you'll find them
impossible.
somewhere. You don't have to come to me for every opinion. That's That's not.
No,
that's
people
not
come
what
to
we're
you
about.
for your opinion. That's why the people love listening to you, and that's why they ask you all these questions. We just got another one from
somebody mentioned
TH1.
Usagi Jimbo would be a great animated series. I absolutely agree with that. I think that could be a really cool like limited Netflix show. That would be the place for that.
Solar Dragon says he wants a Glass commentary. That just got on HBO Max, so that's possible.
Yeah, it is. Have you seen it? Because oh my god,
I haven't seen it.
Let's do it blind. Stussy says I should do a Marvel Mania Part 2 with DJ. I have kicked around bringing that back, but if we did another Marvel Mania, it would not be an everyday thing like we did before. There just would not be enough time to do it that way. Or if we did it that way, we would have to record it over a period of several months and then release it on a daily basis. But I'm not as streamlined as I was 6 months ago. I'm putting out a little bit more content, but I'm still streamlined enough that I don't want to put out a whole lot of shows where it's like every episode of one thing. So we would probably split those up, but we could just make that what we did for commentaries for a while and just do commentaries more often, but you almost certainly would not get them on a daily basis.
Yeah. We could just replace our Tuesday commentary show. Tuesday can just be the commentary day, and we just cycle between different shows.
Sure. Or we
TH1.
just do Marvel for a long time and get them all knocked out. But it wouldn't be daily if we did that. But it wouldn't be daily at this point.
TH1 with Fortnite doing a in-game movie night, movies skipping theaters. Sorry, I'm just reading this as it is. Yeah. It's a little hard to read. With Fortnite doing a in-game movie night, movies skipping theaters. I think these are supposed to have commas between the virus and VR becoming more viable. How much closer are we to a Ready Player One world? Also, is there another nail in the coffin for theaters? So those are just examples of reasons why theaters are going under. I didn't know Fortnite was doing in-game movie nights. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, because the only person I ever heard talk about Fortnite is Tom. Tom, I don't know anything about Fortnite, okay? But, I don't know. I've been hearing this from a few other people too. This came up, and I think we missed it on a show the other day. Maybe it was him, it was somebody else. This idea that we're getting closer to a Ready Player One future. In saying that, do you just mean like we never leave our houses? Because obviously, the technology is not there yet to where we're interacting like inside a virtual world in the same way that you do in Fortnite. And VR specifically, you brought that up, is so limiting that I think we're going to have to get to a technology where that doesn't give anybody headaches or motion sickness anymore before that can become remotely viable as a long-term thing. Like virtual reality is finally popular again, and the technology is there to where people can get that and use it in their homes. But a good percentage of us, including myself, I'm sure, I haven't tried it, but the reason is because I get motion sick easy, so I'm sure I'm one of these people. And also I have that weird eye thing I've got where my eyes don't see together, so I'm sure VR would not work great with my face. Which is the whole reason that I haven't, shelled out the $400 for a, PSVR or an Oculus Rift yet. A lot of people can only use that stuff for 20 minutes to half an hour at a time. The idea of like virtual movie watches where people get together like they do with video games instead of leaving their house to all watch a movie, might get us closer to where people don't feel the need to go to a theater as much, or where that experience gets enjoyable enough for people that it can replace the movie theater experience. But as long as that model is the same with how movies are released, you also have to keep in mind that we're still going to have that immediate satisfaction of seeing a movie as soon as it comes out. So that ends up as soon as movie theaters open again, it's not like suddenly movies that would have made $1 billion are only going to get $200 million in the box office. That's not going to happen. I think that there are a lot of smaller movies that might really suffer from the quarantine. But the stuff that everybody and his dog was already going to, if they come to a theater and not to streaming, everybody and his dog will still go to them because of the exact same technology that is creating the other phenomenon you're talking about, which is the internet and social media. Because that stuff means spoilers and means that you can't go the 3 months it takes before it comes on video without getting everything spoiled for you about a thing that you want to see. So I think a lot of people that might not otherwise like even feel the need to go to a theater, they don't necessarily care about that experience. Because a lot of people say, oh no, Cap, we have to have movie theaters. People love to go sit in the theater and have surround sound and have the experience of seeing with a bunch of people. I guarantee you there are people who do not care at all about that there are a lot of people that do, but I swear to God, there are people that do not care at all about that only go because it's the only way they can see it on day one. And and we've seen some of this with the quarantine, if they could get it at home, they would stay at home and watch it that way. It's not everybody. It's not going to destroy theaters necessarily, but it's definitely going to change the market to some degree. But I don't know that gets us all that closer to Ready Player One. That's a technological hurdle before it's anything.
Yeah.
That was harder to break down than I thought it would be. Anyway.
Well, here's one that I'm sure you've never gotten before. 5590 ERS. Cap, if you could write for Marvel or DC, what characters would you write for?
Oh, no, I've gotten this a lot. Absolutely. So big stuff, obviously, somebody in Batman. I mean, it would be cool to just tackle Batman and do a straight-up Batman story, I suppose. But I might be quicker to do, more minor characters or, like Bat family characters. I guess I don't know who. I mean, I'm not a big giant Robin guy, but I love to tell, I don't know, I always go to Birds of Prey. I guess I'd love to tell a standalone Riddler story. I wish we still were in the days where the Riddler was kind of trying to go straight and had his own detective agency. I think telling a Riddler detective story would be really cool, although I don't think I would be great at that, but I would probably give it a try because I love that character so much. But I mean, just my favorite stuff in DC and Marvel are Batman and then characters in Spider-Man. I guess it would be fun to try my hand at a story involving the symbiotes or something with Galactus. Like a Galactus character piece. Spider-Man 2099 is a thing I love. That would be fun to try to tackle, although I wouldn't want to, not until Peter David is no longer with us. Because that would I couldn't even do that, even if it was possible.
What stops you from doing a self-indulgent storyline, like something just for yourself?
Nothing, except I've always been weird about fan fiction. I've talked about this before. Like I'm getting more open to the idea. Ever since I pitched at DJ's place my Power Rangers idea, there was a lot of really positive reaction about my ideas for a Power Rangers reboot that I came up with way before Boom did their Power Rangers thing. And then because theirs wasn't a straight-up reboot, and they've still never really gone back and broken down the background for Zordon, a lot of my ideas still feel like they should be done. Like, it doesn't feel like somebody's done what I was going to do just as well as I did it or better. It feels like the thing I wanted to do has still never been done. And so I would love to get to write that. Would at this point, Brandon, that is still the thing I would do if I got self-indulgent and decided to write a fan fiction. And I would probably just do it for the channel and either write it as a prose thing or write it as a like audio script and cast people, but then I have to cast people.
But there's different levels of fan fiction, wouldn't you say? Like there's the really crummy stuff, people don't know what they're talking about, and then there's there's a lot better stuff of people who really care for a property and understand the property and can write well about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just It just does feel a little bit self-indulgent, that's all. I mean, like, I used to, I've talked about this before, but like years ago, just for myself and some, like, role-playing is cool. I did email role-playing for a while right out of high school, and that was just with a group of people I found on the internet, and we never showed it to anybody. It was just for us, and so like that kind of thing was kind of fun. But I don't know, the idea of like trying to put it out and be like, look, I could do this better, has always felt kind of weird to me, and especially because so much fan fiction is terrible, and people don't actually know how to write, and like, I don't want to put my fan fiction in with a bunch of that stuff because, like, the good stuff being mixed in, like, I don't mean to sound prudish when I say this. If my stuff is any good, but it's mixed in with a bunch of like really poorly written crap, then all the good stuff and the bad stuff being intermingled almost like legitimizes the bad stuff, if that makes any sense. And so I don't know, like if I did it, it would need to be completely independent from all that. I would post it here and nowhere else. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't go to like a fanfic site and put a thing on a fanfic site.
No, certainly not. But also, how do people get in to write for some of these properties anyway? Like if they were doing legitimate writing for the comic book publications and putting it out there to the comic book stores, how do people get into that?
What do you mean?
Like the people who do write for these properties, how did they get their start even?
Well, they didn't get it in fan fiction. I can guarantee you that.
But how would you get into something like that? Could you get into something like that?
Yeah, potentially. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to be discovered. But like, so now I have to explain publishing to Brandon apparently.
No.
But, yeah, but these places don't take like unsolicited manuscripts and stuff, and also I don't have those kinds of aspirations. So I don't know why you're asking me that question.
Well,
like,
if it ever crossed your mind, and clearly it hasn't.
Yeah, well, years ago, sure, but the short answer there, Brandon, is I wouldn't want to work for the big two because it's too limiting and there's too much, like editorial mandate and control and stuff. DJ, sorry, this is just a thing that's come up a million times before, and I don't feel like retreading it. But, yeah, Anime says, ouch, Cap, I'm a fanfiction writer. I didn't say you were a bad fanfiction writer. I'm just saying most of it's not good. Like, maybe yours is great. I don't know. And also, nothing against people that write fanfic. It's just a thing that I kind of resist. I've always kind of resisted doing. But like I said, I'm a little bit more open to it now. Solar Dragon, if you got to make a Star Trek show in the Prime continuity, what would you make? I talked about Peter David earlier. I always thought that should have gotten to be a TV show, his New Frontier series, and that's probably what I would do. Or if it was, I don't know, if it was 10 years ago, maybe not now, but if it was 10 years ago, a Titan show with Riker and Troy. Certainly. I wouldn't do a mirror thing. It's too obvious. I always, although I've pitched this before, and this is so niche, and not nearly enough people would watch it, and there's no way it could ever get made. But one thing I've always thought would be really cool is a really dark, serious 2D animated, somewhat similar looking to Batman the Animated Series Klingon show that's all in Klingon with English subtitles. I always thought that would be like the coolest freaking thing. DJ, how many more super chats do we have?
Tres.
All right, good.
First one from T-Edge1 back when we were talking about this show, and I made like an offhanded joke. Why do people not like Fast Forward? And he also says, you're awesome.
I have never actually sat through Fast Forward. We're talking about the Ninja Turtle show. But what I have heard from people is that it just got really, really goofy and dopey, and it stopped being the same show.
Yeah, it's almost a totally different show. It's like season 6 of that show, but I just love the first 5 seasons so much, and then it just like completely, they just get stuck in the future, and it's like a completely different thing. And they even changed the animation, like they gave them pupils in their eyes and made them look more cartoony and goofy. Like I don't know, it's just
it's apparently just a lot more cartoony
weird
than that show was, where it was just a little bit more serious. And Stussy says, I just thought it was boring.
And then Mr. Roboto.
You missed a super chat from a long time ago from John.
But
I'll go back.
I'll look back.
Because he said thoughts on cancel culture, which is like an after dark kind of question.
Yeah, I didn't even see that. I'll go back though and look for it. But real quick, how long? Okay, so this is back when we were talking about stuff earlier. Mr. Roboto says, how long till we deconstruct Captain Logan?
Well, I'll tell you, there's some folks in comments that have done that already for you, but...
Well, there you go. There's the answer.
Yeah.
It's already done.
No, everything gets deconstructed now, so yeah.
And then IDW TMNT comic vaults someday. I would love that. This from Reg C, which I don't immediately recognize.
Yeah,
Canadian
that really needs to happen. There's so much of it now. I don't know exactly how I would do it. I talked about that series for years, issue to issue, and then I stopped doing new comic reviews and new acquisitions, and so I haven't gotten back to that and spoken on that in a long time. But I've also never done vaults on arcs of that or any kind of an overview. It would be insane to read like a lot of it and try to do an overview on everything that's come out so far. It's 200 issues, so I don't know how exactly I would tackle it without it becoming a big project. Eric and I had talked about doing that for a long time after we finished the Mirage stuff, which we successfully got through all of the Eastman and Laird stuff. We didn't do everything Mirage published, but we did all of the Eastman and Laird stuff. So there was 5 volumes, and we talked about doing IDW after that, and then he got really busy and wasn't able to be as involved in the channel. So if I did it now, it would either be on my own or with DJ, if I could get DJ access to that material, because I know you've read some of it.
Yeah, I have it. I've read a lot of it, but I stopped like a few years in, like 5 or 6 years in. But yeah, I still have access to it.
Oh, okay, cool. So I don't know. Down the road, it's possible. I just don't know what form that would take, but and how much interest there would be in it. But that's one of my favorite things. I would absolutely love to go through that. And DJ and I have also talked about going through the rest of Power Rangers together, because I've not reviewed Shattered Grid even.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. And yeah, John Ty sneaked in a little $2 super chat. He just says, real quick, thoughts on cancel culture.
Yeah.
Which I guess we could talk about briefly, maybe get into a little more After Dark.
On After Dark, yeah, because that's such an After Dark topic. But yeah, I guess just real briefly, that whole thing is just a thing I don't understand, and I think it comes from a really anti-critical thinking place, and it's very super all or nothing, and it's really against the way that we've always kind of thought about justice, at least in this country, where things are supposed to go through some kind of a due process before we all just band together and say, no, this person is done. I also just and not everything is a legal thing, but this has been happening with legal stuff, right? And I don't want to get any specific examples, because I'm afraid if I talk about anything in particular, I'm gonna get in trouble with somebody, and I'm gonna accidentally veer too much into political territory. But this does happen with things that really need to go through the court of law and the police first, before before public consensus can make up its mind about it. I think people these days, maybe because information is so freely available, they think they know everything before they possibly could have read even everything there is. And even if you read everything there is, you still don't necessarily know everything. So a lot of the time, again, with stuff that should go down a legal direction, a legal path, people just immediately go, somebody got accused of this, therefore we should all agree that their life should be ruined. Two big questions there for me with people who think that way. The first is, don't you want to get all the facts first? And the second is, even if you do have all the facts, is that what we're about now? Ruining people? And are there no second chances anymore? Because it's not always... This doesn't always happen with really super heinous stuff. I'm intentionally being vague. This will sometimes happen with things that not even everybody agrees is a problem. And somebody, because it hurts their sensibilities, will try to do everything they can to get a person ruined. And I don't think that's right, ever. With most things, I think that there's a chance at redemption, and we don't like that word anymore in this culture. It feels like, and I don't want to end the show on such a down note, but this is becoming a massive problem. Let me also mention that I just don't even like that word and the way we're using it. We're having a big problem with language right now, where words are getting co-opted by groups and then they become buzzwords in no matter what context they use. This is getting really bad. When we get to the point where the word cancel it sets people off and triggers people, and then the word trigger is now a problem. I can't say that word anymore either in any context without people thinking about that situation, that context. Boy, that bothers me. So there's this idea of canceling people.
And
bothers
also with
me.
the amount that people take words and use them improperly, and then they become that too.
Well, yeah, sure, but that's a whole other kind of topic, right? But
I think they cross in some areas.
but what I'm trying to say is, even just on a like language, on like a literary level, just the word cancel doesn't even make sense. Like, the person's still there. Yeah. And they're clearly going to try to live their life. You can't cancel a person. This idea that society should decide to basically completely disown people is insane to me. I don't know. It just bugs me, and it's not any fun to talk about at all. But it ends up becoming really relevant to what I do now, which bothers me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just getting to a point where I can't talk about pop culture without talking about this stuff. And have you noticed a lot of channels that have been around for a long time, maybe as long as me or not quite as long? I mean, I've been doing this for 11 years. And when I started, there weren't a lot of comic channels. There were movie channels, but there weren't nearly as many as there are now. And the ones that were around, you know what they talked about, most of them? Like comic books, like stories in comics, and whether or not they liked them, and whether or not you should go and get them. And you know what video game channels used to do? They used to stream video games, or they would review video games. It's crazy. It's almost like politics has turned YouTube channels into what happened to MTV. It's still called that, but they don't play anything that they used to play. Like politics now, not commercialism, but some commercialism, but especially politics, have done this to YouTube channels where they're still in that general vicinity, in the ballpark, in the sense that they're talking about drama and politics related to other comics channels, video game channels, comics creators, video game creators, but they're not like reviewing stories and games anymore. Or if they are, it's a much smaller percentage than it used to be. And this used to be an escape for people. People used to come here to get away from those kinds of problems and to get away from the news. And the news is just inundating us. And John, I don't mean to throw you under the bus at all when I say this. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate getting challenged talking about these topics. And I know that there's some other folks that really appreciate that you've kind of forced me into a corner where I have to talk about some of this stuff. I'm not complaining about it, except to say that the fact that you're even thinking to ask me about those things tells you where we're at now. I can't avoid it either, as much as I may try, because I'm a interactive YouTube channel, because I want you guys to be involved, and I say ask me anything, and these are the things that are on you guys' mind when you are thinking about pop culture. You ask me about it because I'm a pop culture channel, and so these are the things that we find ourselves inundated with and talking about, because it's affecting the entertainment that we're consuming.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna ask you. Let me do a light pre-written question before we go, if I can.
Yeah, no problem.
Blue Dragon 5, thoughts on the free comic book summer that they're doing this year?
You know, I saw a headline about that, but I don't know anything about it. I should have looked into that. I honestly forgot all about that. So I saw that was a thing. I don't know what exactly it is. I would have to look into it. I guess I'll find an article for us real quick, and I'll just figure out what it is so we can talk about it for a moment. But what sucks about that, just on the face of it, just on the title of that, is that the comic industry is obviously, struggling is an understatement. I mean, the industry itself practically fell apart in a week. That tells you how much money was in the bank with any of these companies, including Diamond. Like, they were all talking a big game and acting like comics were really healthy, but that industry couldn't possibly have been. Nobody could afford to stay afloat for a week without books. That's nuts. For any industry that would shut down that fast. That's nuts. So clearly we're in trouble. And the sad thing is, I mean, obviously, try to be creative, try to come up with ways to keep people interested when you finally come back and comics are around again. But all we've been able to come up with for the last almost 20 years is giving away books. It's all we ever do. It's always free comic book something. Started with Free Comic Day, and then years later, we got Halloween Comic Fest, which was once again giving away comics. And then some comic stores are able to open again, and comics start getting distributed again. And what is the first headline I see when we're trying any kind of an event to get people interested in comics again? Free comic books. It's like, it's all we can do. And this was a thing that Nick Post complained about in my documentary 6 years ago. It's like, it's all we've got for Comic Day.
Isn't it though? That's what they have on hand, and they can just give it away. You know, the other merchandise makes more money than comics do, right? So they've got these. They can just be like, hey, take a few of these.
So
printing out.
So no, that's not remotely how it works. But also, the point I'm making is, in trying to come up with promotions and ways to get people interested in comics, all we can think of to do is give away comics. Like, there's nothing to give away, to do giveaways. I'm not saying the answer is give away something that's not comic books, Brandon. I'm saying,
I'm not saying that either.
That's all you can come up with, is just giving away stuff.
Isn't that so? Why do they just come up with that?
Because it's difficult to come up with anything else, but I just think it's really sad that nobody's got any better ideas. I don't know what that idea should be, but you're telling me this has been around since, I think, what, 2002? We can't come up with anything else in almost 20 years than just give away comics. And now that I'm thinking about this, I actually don't think it was Nick Post that said it. I think it was one of the other, and I'm not thinking of who it is right now, the guys in the comic documentary. It's been a while, but go back and check out that movie. That gets talked about. But I think it was the guy from Nebraska. But anyway, yeah, okay. So Free Comic Day 2020. So what I was going to mention, Brandon, is no, it's not just comics we have on hand. The stores have to pay for specific books that they give away.
Oh, that's true.
They're 25 cents a piece to the comic store, and then they give those away. So it's not just, we have these things on hand, we can give them to people. And also, you wouldn't want to do it that way, because that would actually cost you $2 a pop, because comic stores only have a 50% markup on books. You wouldn't get.
I hadn't considered that.
You wouldn't get people to. You wouldn't get people to come to a comic shop for your Free Comic Day event if all you were giving away were 20-year-old back issues. But anyway, Free Comic Day is traditionally scheduled to take place the first Saturday in March. However, the impact of the virus prevented the event from being celebrated at the normal time of year. Now the beloved event. This is from freecomicday.com, by the way. Now the beloved event has been rescheduled and reworked to take place throughout July and early September. Effectively making it Free Comic Book Summer. Okay, so we missed Free Comic Day, so now we're stretching it for several weeks. I guess that's okay. I don't know how
45 titles. Wow.
Yeah, and the question is always how much of those titles are going to just be kind of ad books for things that are coming out, and how many of them are actually going to be like real issues. And then what I would hope they would do, and I just don't have time to read this whole article, but what I would hope they were doing is maybe take a few good issues that had been written to be sold and make them Free Comic Book Day things, because it's not like they'd have time, if they're doing that many, to like do a bunch of new things that were specifically just for Free Comic Day. So it might be cool if they were actually giving away things that they had originally intended to sell. That would probably help them. McFarlane thought that during, and I agree with him on this, Todd McFarlane put out an article and said that while the stores were closed, we should have been giving away free digital books just to keep people interested. And the big companies, of course, were not interested in giving things away. But he was like, but we need to eat some of the costs so that people don't lose interest, because again, I agree with him. What he said was it's really easy for people to like lose a habit when it comes to something like disposable income entertainment like comic books. It's easier, it's harder to get people to develop that habit than it is to break them of it, which is different from like other kinds of habits. But buying habits are this way. If you don't have comics for 2 months, There might be people who collected for years that get out of the habit of buying them and never get back into comics again. So you have to keep them interested somehow, and we didn't do that. And so to compensate for that, we're just going to give away books for 6 weeks. Free Comic Day is a one-day huge event that gets a bunch of people into a store. If they know that they can get those books throughout a bunch of time, so much time that they might even be able to reorder some of those books, I don't know what that does for you. I don't know what Free Comic Day Summer actually does for you, honestly. It works really great as a one-day event. I don't see how that helps to be a several-week event. I get why they want to do something, because they miss Free Comic Day, but I would have just put it on another day. You know?
Yeah.
Or maybe a weekend, but 6 weeks. I don't know what that's just my immediate reaction, because I just now found out what this was. So anyway,
that's what we do on the show. At the very end, we do like a reaction to a trailer or an article. That's what we've been doing the last few shows. So glad we kept it going.
All right. Well, we are very much out of time. We should go ahead and get going. We need to get into Captain Logan After Dark, and I need to drink something that's not McDonald's tea, because for some reason,
some water for you.
Oh, thanks, man.
It had to. He had to.
I'm so tempted to make out with my screen again. Anyway, so we're going to come back here in a few minutes for Captain Me After Dark. So pop over to Patreon if you are a patron, or if you'd like to become a patron so you can hang out with us there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I said, I have lots of topics. I'm sure some of you guys will have some topics as well. And we get into some uncomfortable and dicey and kind of wild topics there sometimes. So not necessarily for the faint of heart. So I don't know why I'm there or why my name's in the title. But I'm going to post that live show here in a couple of minutes. If you are a patron, or if you sign up for a Patreon account, you will get an email. You'll get a message in your inbox that will give you a link to watch that unlisted show live, and you can also check it out after the fact if you can't make it for the show. And we will interact with you. We usually just have about a dozen people there, so you'll very easily be able to get some questions and comments to us and be able to talk with us for a while. And like I said, we usually go for over an hour, so we'll be around for a bit, hanging out. So anyway, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We sure appreciate it. We hope you had a wonderful time with us, despite the fact that we were forced to talk about counterculture.
I know I had a wonderful time with me.
Did you have a wonderful time with yourself, Brandon?
Yes, and you guys. You guys were great.
Oh, one of the funniest things, Anime 2020 said Brandon should be the lifeguard for when DJ and Cap swim on camera.
Do you know about this whole us swimming on camera nonsense, Brandon?
No.
Because
It's been going on forever. People want us to swim on camera, and this joke has been going since like before the new year.
Let's find a pool.
Right now, that's going to be difficult.
we're gonna have to be digital. We'll do a conference call in 2 different pools.
Yeah, it'll be the social distancing swim mat.
I don't know how I'm gonna lifeguard you, DJ. I watch you flounder before you.
Yeah, if he's not there, I'll call your local police
I'll
department.
be like, Shawnee PD, connect me to the PD, and oh wait, I don't know exactly where he lives.
Yeah, I don't know, it's somewhere in Florida, but he's drowning. So not Florida, it's somewhere in Georgia. But he's
because I have a police department literally like less than a mile from my house.
I'd be like, yeah, you're not gonna believe this, but like I'm lifeguarding across the internet in Kansas.
Look, I can give him.
I'm watching a guy drown.
I love the idea of calling that lifeguarding too, and then you're just like, okay, look, I can give you a zip code, his first and last name, but like he's running out of oxygen, so you should figure this out really quickly. All right, folks, we'll see you again next time. Once again, I was Captain Logan. That's Brandon Grimm.
See ya.
And DJ Martinez. Later, folks.